Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It depends upon when you're listening. Welcome to The Solution. Nothing changes if we change nothing. We're the New York City Prevention Resource Center, housed at Children's Aid, and we are back after a long break. We've said this before with our podcast, and we're happy to see you. Hey, Chevar, how's it going?
It's going. The sun is out. If anyone who sees the visual, the sun is on my face, so I'm excited. Just to be around to see the sun. That's really important to me. But other than that, I'm cool, man. Cool as a fan. Like that's just this.
Cool
and
as a
this
fan.
and this episode is pretty cool to me. I love when we do this. I think we should do it more often. But I know it's like a probably a quarterly or half a year once a year thing. A host. This is all about us. All about us and all about the work that we do for the public, for the community. Also about the work that we do for ourselves. Because when I talk to Ronni offline, she talks a lot about self-care and making sure that you focus on you. So that's something I appreciate about Ronni. We're going to talk about all of that, but this is what this episode is about giving each other, or giving the world their flowers, giving each other our flowers, expressing the gratitude and love that we have for one another, or for ourselves, or for the people around us. It's all about acknowledgement, like the important part, especially this time of the year. But we'll get into that. I'm doing a lot of talking because I haven't done this in a while. So
I know, it's funny. Every time we say we're going to get back into it and we do a couple episodes, and then the work keeps us really busy. I mean, Prevention work is constant. You don't stop. You can't stop because, there's too many things happening around you that really develop even further if you don't address them. So we're constantly building up our coalitions, working with them. I mean, we've really seen things take off in New York City, and it's exciting to see such a network of coalitions. And providers, and just prevention is the word. And, we're spreading that word. So we're glad that we're able to talk about this stuff today, because this has a lot to do with prevention, too. All the things you mentioned, Chevar, when we have those things in our lives, it really aids in preventing behaviors that may be harmful to us.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
So I love hearing that,
No, absolutely. And I think one of the things, and I mentioned this in earlier episodes, is understanding what prevention is and what does that actually mean. Because when I first came on board, and I've told this story a billion times when Ronni interviewed me for the position, and she was like, "You've been doing prevention your entire life, especially as a program director. You're giving youth or people alternatives to what other negative influences are out there in life. Whether it's drugs or gangs or whatever the case may be. That is prevention. And so I want people, whomever's listening to this, whether when it comes out or in the far distant future, like if you are giving people an alternative to doing something that might negatively influence their lives, you're practicing prevention. And that's what Ronni told me. And because no one never said that word to me before. No, it was always between the hours of 3 and 6 to keep them off the streets, and I didn't conceptualize what that actually meant. I knew we're stopping them from doing something. We're stopping them from, I know at that time it was big on teen pregnancy. We're stopping teens from getting pregnant, so that's also prevention, but people can still do things, out on the outside of those hours, but within those hours, which is the most important part, especially for me growing up. I was a latchkey kid. My mom had a job. She went to college. She went to school while going to college. I have a younger brother who's 5 years younger than me. So I spent some time home alone, but not a lot. I mean, when she didn't go to class, she was home. When she didn't go to class, she did come home. So I did spend a lot of time with my mom. But those hours from 3 to 5 when I didn't have after school, when my mom wasn't home, those hours were extremely important to me and how I used that time. For me, it was more like video games and cartoons. So I was like in art. So I was like drawing, and that's how I got into graffiti, which I shared with you on the previous episode. But I mean, I think that time, like I said, like no one told me that this was prevention work. Or at least I didn't make the connection until meeting Ronni, and I was like, wait a minute. So when I talk to people, I'm like, you're already doing the work.
Like, you do. Every time we're speaking to somebody who's in a different field but wants to get involved in prevention, you explain that to them. And I love that because it's everybody into the same mindset. Like, it's not a silo. Mm-hmm. We can't just say these are the prevention strategies and that's all it's going to affect, because certain strategies affect so many things that affect drug use. Even things like gratitude help improve mental health and well-being, help increase your immune system, help put you in a state of mind that will possibly help you take a more positive path in life. And we have to do it all. We can't just do a piece of it. And that's the thing we also have learned, is that it's not about one strategy. It's about multiple strategies on different, domains, dimensions, whatever you want to call it, but addressing it on so many different levels. And that's what we do. And that's what you do. I mean, after school care, I have a background in that as well. And, my first job in prevention, my after school work kind of got me qualified for that. I was hired based on a lot of that work. And then I was able to go after that and do more after school work with the prevention knowledge. So, hey, we put it all into one package. It takes a lot of strategies. It doesn't just take one. We make the small world, we're in a better place. And that's, I used to always want to save the world. I grew up, in the 60s, early 70s, and I was like, I'm going to save the world. And I started to realize the only world I could save was my small corner of it. And it starts with me, and those around me. So we're trying to change the corners of our world.
So Ronnie, while you were talking, you stood out, because we do have guests on our show. Most of the time they're guests, so we try to come up with questions, and we have a guest coming up in the next few episodes, and we were talking about questions that we want to modify, because a lot of the questions are based off of the pandemic, and like, what are you doing during the pandemic, and blah blah blah. So when you were talking, I think one of the questions, and this is actually a call to action for whoever's listening to this. And if you're listening to this and you see this on social media or YouTube, please comment or please comment. Like, the question I have is, how do you define prevention? Like, what is prevention? This is for everyone. What is prevention? And I thought about that. It's like, next episode, maybe we'll ask the guests, like, what is prevention like to you? Because again, like I said at the beginning, I didn't know. And I think everyone may have a different concept or perception of what that means. I think, looking at it and hearing their stories, maybe it might trigger some, like, wait a minute. Okay, I didn't think, like with you, I didn't think of it that way. And then I can share my story, and you can share your story with whoever we're interviewing, and explain, like, how do we define prevention, in our lives now. But I think, so the question is for anyone who's listening, who are watching, or however you consume your media, and I will repeat it again at the end. Like, what is prevention to you? What does that mean to you? Like, what does it look like? What do you define? I just wanted to throw that out before I forget it. I should have wrote it down. But anyway, we're back to us.
When you're editing it, you'll hear it and you'll write it down. But yeah, and please use the comments. Yes. Or as Chevar said, or whatever social media, platform that we posted on, please use the comments. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast, because we really want to continue spreading this message. But go for it, Chevar.
So this, like, when you said that, like, I think I love the work that I do, and I express that to Ronnie. I express that to Ronnie. You guys don't know what I'm saying, so she hears it, and she already heard this. I love doing this podcast. Like, I love doing the social media. I love doing the other stuff. Not saying I don't like doing because, like, for me with the podcasting and the social media, and we have more control over what are the outcomes. And so that's I'm giving the gratitude to that type of work. Because I know, and please, whoever's this, please don't get offended to this about this next part. Sometimes when we have conversations, a lot of times those concepts aren't shown later on. And Ronnie knows what I'm talking about. Those ideas, and it's like, man, we went through all this, we did this, we said that. And it's like, but at the end of it, Ronnie, which reminds us, it's up to those individuals to take those concepts I want to use. So that's something that I always remind myself, if I go to an event or a meeting, whatever the case may be, and I say, well, we have this little conversation and the group goes in a different direction, I have to remind myself, like, those were our concepts. They had to figure out a way to either take them or adapt those concepts. So when we do these podcasts, when we do these social media things, and when we're doing our trainings, I have so much fun when we do our trainings, because we have control of those. And that's where the flower part comes in. It shows who you are on the inside, right? And is it the service level? This is me, what I look like. with that passion that Riley has for the work, right? Because like I'm like Riley, I don't know the answer. Riley has the answer, right? And like and I don't care. Like he doesn't know the answer. You don't know the answer either. So I'm like,
but that's the beauty of it. We can admit when we don't know, and what do? We go and learn. And
absolutely.
that prevention is constantly learning. It's constantly updating, and it's looking at tried and true ways, evidence-based that work. And that's so important. But yeah, that's interesting about what you said, and I get what you're saying. I remember years ago in my career, somebody said to me, "You're not responsible for you're responsible for the intervention, but not the outcome."
Yeah.
So that is so important because you're right. We put out what we can out there. We give our suggestions or our advice, but people are going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to adapt it the way they need to. And maybe later down the road, they'll remember something that was mentioned.
Absolutely. And that's why, back to what I was saying, because we talk about prevention via this platform and also social media. And it comes from, the social media more or less comes from a collective, but those ideas are put forward. It's not like one person comes with the ideas and then you have to follow it. This is a collective. And I like that. I like the fact that we're putting out prevention messages, not solely based off of one person or one group, but it's a collective of people saying, hey, we want to talk about in New York State rather, cannabis and how cannabis is taking over New York State in the unlicensed versus licensed dispensaries, and how like the wealth of funds that are in there are driving these unlicensed dispensaries, but educating people, about those, and I think that's the important part. Is like, right, like I said, we share those concepts with others, but we actually, when we do our research, when we do our planning for other podcasts or for the social media, we could take those same concepts and then put them. Sometimes people don't see the idea until they see the idea. if that makes sense. Like, and I think when we do that, we're like, oh, I didn't know that. That's what you meant when you were telling us when we had our sessions. That's what you meant. Okay, all right. Makes sense now, because again, it conceptualizing. I see Ronnie wants to say something. Go for it, Ronnie.
Oh no, I want to be able to just say yeah. But also you were asking the other day about an aha moment, and
that's
aha moments are the things that really get people to stop and say, okay, now I get that. And again, we have no control over that moment, but we can control how we disseminate that information, and people are going to do what they do with it. But I know there's a way it just kind of pops out. It could be years later. I see it with all the students I used to work with.
Yes.
I always say this at the training because we have a lot of prevention specialists and professionals working with us, and this is hard work. We're not seeing immediate results very often. In treatment and recovery, there's a plan that's being followed, and you start to see results pretty quickly, at least in the process. Whereas in prevention, we're planting seeds that may not bloom for a decade, but they do bloom. And then you start to see those flowers that, we keep coming back to the flowers. Even the strategic prevention framework looks like a flower, so, and it's all about putting it out there. And it's like, that's the way it is with everything to me. Parents, are worried about their kids and what are their kids going to do. You do the best you can. You give it all you got. And then the rest is going to be up to them. Yeah. Then you hope that the way you taught them and the things you imparted are the things that guide their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I always tell my children, like, it's your choice. I'm going to be your dad. I'm going to guide you. But at the end of it, it's your decision, and what are you willing to live with, and how are you going to navigate that, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, and my kids, I always praise them, and I call them. They'll be in the room next to me, but I'll still call them and text them. I love you guys. 2 o'clock in the morning, if I'm up, like I tell them, I give them their flowers, because a lot of parents don't necessarily, and this isn't that's happening with parenting, I'm at in any way, shape, or form telling someone how to parent, but I'm telling what I do. I always make sure to show my kids and tell my kids what I'm grateful for about them. I told them I'm grateful to be your dad. Like, you guys are amazing, and not only that, I tell them why the things that they're doing. Like, my daughter just modeled recently, like, you know, got paid pretty well. So like, I'm like, shout out to you, girl. I'm like, you know, I don't got to tell you you're pretty. Like, you already know you're pretty.
Nice.
And my son is, you know, and he's a teenager. He's a very good writer apparently. And I'm like, because the reason why I said, because he showed me emails that he sent to companies because he wants to be a brand ambassador. So he got selected to be a brand ambassador for 2 different companies, you know, clothing lines. So I'm like, shout out to you guys, man. You know,
Wow.
you know, he got into the college that he wanted to, so he got his acceptance letter recently. And dude,
Nice.
my daughter, she's going for a master's, so she got into the school that she wanted to. So I'm like, hey, this is why you guys are amazing. Let me we always hear as a child or caregivers always say to people to say to young people, you're smart. But what does that mean? Sometimes it loses value because everyone's saying these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's give context to why you're so smart, why you're so intelligent. What makes you intelligent? This is what makes you great. This is why I say you are great. And I usually list out, you know, the things like, you know, they've been doing. You know, my son, when he wrote his essay to the schools, it made me cry because it was all about me.
Oh.
I didn't think I would have never. He's a teenager, and teenagers at one point don't talk to their parents. They hate their parents, so that's what it feels like. And like, in the letter was pretty much about, you know, him giving me my flowers, saying like, you know, my dad has always been encouraging to me, like all these things. And he actually gave out stories of when in his life that he thought he wasn't going to succeed, and what I did to help him succeed. I'm like, you remember that?
Hey, you never know. Well, okay, now that term, giving somebody their flowers, we've talked about that a lot. To people listening or watching, what does that mean?
So what does that mean? This is something that a lot of my friends, people I know, use this term, and I've heard for a long time. It's so normally, and here comes the morbid part. Normally, when you're presenting someone flowers or giving them they just due, or giving them their respect, is towards the end of their lives, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when it comes. I gave them. You come to wherever that place. You tell them, oh my God, I'm gonna miss you. You were so great. You know, and the reason why people say give them their flowers now is like, why do we have to wait till then? Why do we have to show that gratitude then? When people need to hear these stories now. Like, I don't care if the person's 3 years old, 33 years old, or 83 years old. Tell them now. If you feel this way about them, give them their flowers. Remember, auntie, uncle, whatever you want to call that person, remember that day you did this for me? You made me feel so great. You were great because of this. Auntie, cousin, Miss so-and-so, Mr. So-and-so, thank you so much for looking out for me when I was a child, you know, or looking out for my mom or my dad or my siblings, or that teacher. Remember that day that you taught me how to spell the word, whatever that word was, and I kept messing it up, but you gave me grace. You said, you know what, one day you'll get this word right, and I believe in you. And you go back and tell that person, thank you. I want to show the appreciation, and not only to that person, let the world know. Like, I'm big on letting the world know that I appreciate people. I'm not going to just say it to you. No, I appreciate people. I used to do this thing on my personal social media. I'm not sure if I shared it here, but I think I shared it with you, Ronnie, where I would highlight people that I thought were great. And I would have these like little, I'm going to bring that back. I would get pictures of them, and I would, like 3 to 4 people, and I would post their pictures, and I would write stories about them in the caption, about why they're so great, why they're giving them their flowers. Like, and they were like, you saw me do that? Yeah. But I need the world to see, I need my people to see that. And I had a podcast, which my son gave me the name for, because we had the talk, that I'm going to bring back. And Ronnie knows it's a passion project for me. But anyway, in that first season, it was me interviewing people that I thought were amazing, doing these amazing things. And I wanted to give them their flowers. Like, you know, like, people don't know what people don't know. People don't know how great we all are. And someone has to tell the world that this person, who I know, whether it's 3 days, 30 years, or whatever the case may be, is amazing, and this is why. And I want them to hear your story. I want to tell your story through my eyes, which I used to do on social media. Right. So that's the giving of the flowers, showing that gratitude, telling them how great they are. But for me, it's not only telling them, like, it's how you can tell the world the bad things. Tell them all the great things.
I love that idea, because, you know, you don't want to miss that opportunity, because first of all, you never know when somebody needs to hear it.
Absolutely.
I've gotten texts or, private messages, Facebook messages from former students who I hadn't seen in years who tell me, when you were there for me, this is what it meant. I'm so glad like that. And I didn't even know. A lot of times, I hate to say this, so many years ago, they've changed. They were young
Right.
kids, they've changed. So sometimes it's hard to remember each, individual when you see their face. And then it's like, oh, yeah, okay. Why wait to do it in a eulogy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially now.
Yeah.
Life has not gotten any easier for anybody. It's like every day I'll be honest, every day is a struggle to get up and find the positive light, but I find it because it's there and it's so embedded in me. And I do try to tell people, I do try to give them their flowers. Yesterday was a hard day for me. We had to put our 14-year-old dog to sleep yesterday, Lucy, who's been just a loving, wonderful dog. And my dogs are my kids. We have our 1.5-year-old Hannah still, who's suffering through it. And it was hard, but I had to find some positive light in that because that's part of life. And my gratitude with that, there was a time in my life when I was an active, drug and alcohol use, and I would have been present for her, but then afterwards I wouldn't have been present for me. And I would have used a lot of things to numb my feelings. And today I get to talk about them and feel them. And I'm real sad. I'm real sad today, but I'm so grateful to be able to help somebody stop suffering. It's just people, and I posted it earlier on social media, and some of the beautiful things people have written, they've given me my flowers. And I needed those flowers today. So you never know when somebody's having a rough day with everything going on in the world around us, in this country. We've had a rough 4 years.
Yep.
Like I always say, we're all suffering from PTSD still. Maybe on different levels, but we saw a lot of drug and alcohol use go down with young people, during the pandemic, but they were home and under parental supervision a lot more. And now we're seeing that trend change and it's starting to go up again. And it's parents don't realize how much influence they have in their child's life. I was just reading through the Talk They Hear You campaign earlier. They always have new messaging and just how much it matters to a young person to get those flowers from them, to understand. And like you talk to your kids, you tell them how wonderful they are and how much you appreciate them. And I just can't emphasize how important that is to everybody out there. So why don't we do a challenge here? I'm going to ask people who are listening to this or watching it to decide one thing you could do to give somebody flowers. And then if you're up for it, report back to us on what it was like. But we're going to challenge you all to do it with at least one person today. As you listen to this, please go out and do this. I'm telling you, you won't be sorry. It will change your corner of the world.
100%, Ronnie. And I used to when I used to be a program director, was I youth development counselor at the time. I would think I was the YDC at the time. And I remember I had a student. I remember her name. I'm not going to say her name, but I remember her name. And like, this is my first interaction with kids who were going through who had difficult behaviors. I never want to say a child is bad. It's the behaviors is difficult. Whatever they're going through, they're trying to manage whatever emotions or whatever's going on, or however they know how to express themselves. But anyway, I'm gonna skip to the other part because she did a lot. So one time we were talking and she was telling me that someone didn't like her. That the person kept saying mean things to her. And the reason why I say that, because like I said, she had very difficult behaviors, and her response was not the most pleasant response. And I would just always see her, and I would talk to her, like, why do you handle things like that? And like, I gotta defend myself. I'm like, defending yourself from what? No. But anyway, so she was like, this person, and so me, this coach, coaching her and mentoring her and talking to her, she did, I guess, trusting me would come and tell me what was going on. And I would say, why don't you try to say something nice and see what happens? Next time this person says something mean to you, respond with something really, really nice.
I love that.
And the person said something really mean and reckless. And I guess I was in her head, and I said, you know what? I love what you're wearing today. Like, it looks good on you. It looks good on you. And she's telling me this. And she said, Mr. Chevar, oh my God, the girl was confused, and now we're friends. Because I said something.
I love it.
But like, how hard? I mean, wasn't it that? I mean, now what? Now there's no reason to be mad anymore, right? You know, and from there on, that I mean, not saying that she like, you know, like I mean, like she became the best person, but I would say things got better.
Mm-hmm.
She walked around with a smile on her face. Her head was held high, and she did have difficult moments, but less than before. But I do know whenever she saw me or heard my voice, it would click. I can't do that. How else should I? What would Mr. Chevar do? What would he say to me? How do I respond to this person?
Yeah.
You know, and she would, you know, would you know what? Just use kindness. It's like that helps. And it doesn't. For those listening, it doesn't always help. I want to be honest, but
it helps you.
Yeah,
it helps you.
Yes,
because at least you know I know that when I allow, I've never look. I come from a family where my mother had a terrible temper, and she was quick to flare up, but quick to forgive. And unfortunately, that's been my trend through my life. It's a lot better now, but I have those moments where I definitely let my feelings show on my sleeve, and I can be a little brazen. But you know, and I don't feel good about that. But when I do what you said, and I try to be kind, I feel good, and it changes who I am. And I'm not dealing with shame and regret, but I'm dealing with feeling grateful that I can be kind and feeling like I've done something positive. You know, you have at the end of your signature on your emails, live in the positive, don't die in the negative.
Yeah.
And that's so true, because even if we don't physically die or literally die, parts of us die. Yeah. And you know, I've said this before many times. My friend Deb, who was on the podcast, she talks a lot about did I have an alive day today? You know, and it's interesting because even we were watching our dog Lucy going downhill. I kept thinking, is she having an alive day today? And when she wasn't, then I knew it was time to help her. But you know, we have a choice every day. I can choose to try to have an alive day, try to be kind, and try to make my day the best it can be, even a lousy day that's not going well. I try to find something to be grateful for, and I try to start it over again. I learned that in recovery. If I'm having a terrible day, I can start it over again. And even if I need to start it 10 more times, I can keep starting it because I don't have to stay mired in that place. And that's so important. You know, I think what I'm hearing, we both have a lot of gratitude. And, you know, gratitude, we always talk about gratitude because it's so much a part of what we do. And I have to say, our team, we have an amazing team. And,
absolutely,
you know, we're always saying how grateful we are for each other and expressing positive things about each other. And you can't always be positive. Sometimes you have to, you talk in areas that, and we don't like to say negatives. We like to say room or areas of growth, you know, or glows and grows.
Absolutely.
You know, and even when we do it, if we do it lovingly, it has a very different message.
Absolutely. You can say the same message, but in a different tone. And people are more inclined to listen if you have empathy in your voice when you like, you know, they actually care about me. You know, opposed to saying, you're doing this wrong. Opposed to saying, you know what you're doing is wrong. It's the same message. It's the same set of words, but it's how you say it. And I'm all for that. And if we go back to, part of our idea was is with prevention is when you talk to your family members and you talk to young people that you know who are on the cusp of possibly using or might be using, you know, tearing them down doesn't always help. I know sometimes we think that helps, you know, like the whole scare tactics, you know, scare tactics don't work. People just find other ways to do it without you finding out. So, I mean, sometimes people, to what Ronnie said a moment ago, about a few minutes ago, is like people want to hear that they're loved. Like, and you can say the same thing with a different tone. If you want to help prevent whatever is going on in their lives that you care about, because sometimes we push people away with the energy that we put out, right? You know, and this is about prevention and about growth and what have you. And I'm just thinking about like, and I tell this story to my mom, and I laugh at her, and she doesn't remember this story. And I think I shared this on the podcast. I'm pretty sure I shared with you, Ronnie. When I was a teenager and something happened. I know my mom came in the room. She came in yelling at me, blah, blah, blah. wow, you blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and I just sat there quietly. I was playing video games quietly. And then she says, what's wrong with you? Are you high? I was like, why did you say this? She said, you aren't mad. I said, obviously I did something. Because you're upset. I just want to know what I did so I can fix it. And I said, you also taught me as a child, accept the responsibility for what you've done. Because, it's, she said, it's easier if you accept it and be honest about it, and you're going to get in trouble, but you'll get in less trouble.
Mm.
And that's something that she told, and that's something I tell my kids, just tell me, dude, like, I'm going to be upset. Allow me to be upset. Just like any young person, any person who is struggling, and find the person in your life that you can talk to. I hope it's your parent. I hope it's your guardian. And if it's not, I get it. Find that person that you can talk to and have them help you through that, and whoever's listening to this, and a young person that you might have torn down, or any person that you might have torn down, reflect on that. Because if someone came to you and tore you down, how do you respond? Right? Mm-hmm. Like I always say, but if I yelled at you right now, how are you going to respond? Right?
Yeah, good point.
So whomever, if you care, or if you never feel you care, if you want to see a person make a change, and I know it does get hard where you tried and you tried and you tried and you tried and you tried. But what I would say is to never give up. And I'm going to give you your flowers, whoever's listening, for never giving up. And I appreciate you for never giving up on anyone. And I know there are times when you want to give up, you want to throw your hands in the air, I can't do this no more. But that person needs you. Or if you aren't that person, help them find someone else. And it's not like you're pushing it on someone else. It's like, maybe I'm not that person for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's but don't leave it aside, because they might think, oh, you just left me. No, I'm here for you until you're ready for me. Mm-hmm. Because I'm ready for you. Until you're ready to receive me, this might be the person.
And I hear a further message in that. And again, when I got into recovery so many years ago, one of the first things I heard is, we're here to love you until you're ready to love yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's so important, to have that person or those people in your life. To know that there are people that are going to love you no matter what. And, it doesn't mean that they're going to like everything you do.
Absolutely not.
And when I was at SAPS, in the New York City schools, and an old term, we don't say abuse anymore, but substance abuse prevention and intervention specialist. One of the things we used to say to a lot of the young people, they would have family situations, or situations with people in their lives that really had impacted them in a negative way. And we talk about forgiveness, and they're like, how can I forgive what that person did? And we'd say, well, you know what? Do you think you could find it within yourself to forgive the person, mm-hmm. but not the act?
Absolutely.
And even if it was a hard thing, because that kind of lets you off the hook a little bit. If you can find forgiveness, and there are certain things people that are just unforgivable. I'm not saying everything.
Absolutely.
But, sometimes, if we can forgive the person, if they've done something that is just really terrible for us, not violent. I'm not talking about things that are, but some people can forgive even in those situations. It lets us feel less angry and resentful, and forgiveness feels a whole lot better than holding resentment and anger. Another thing I used to hear in recovery that I still think about is, when I resent somebody, it's like I'm giving them poison and I die.
Oh, wow.
And that's always stayed with me, because I don't need to carry that anymore.
That kind of like follows a saying that I have, and I say lead with love. Always lead with love.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, if I walk away, if I come into this situation angry, we're all going to be angry, right? Because, like, even if I come in a situation, you're happy, and I change your mood, right, to being angry. If I come in with this situation trying to find out what's going on, how to support, even one client to tell me what's going on, and like, you know what, let me calm down. If you're at that state where you're above and beyond where you can't handle it, or if you're at a state where you're happy, it's like, you know what, another loving person. It's easy. It's easy to tear yourself down and tear the people around. It's easy. It's struggling, like you said earlier. We're all struggling in different forms. Whether it's with misuse or financial or relationships or loss of family or job, whatever the case may be. Like, we're struggling, but it's like, how do you navigate through it? Like, how do you, like, don't, even if someone is upset and there's a saying that Ronnie, you heard this, hurt people, right? And it's,
Yeah.
even if the person is upset and they're trying to hurt you, do your best not to do it back.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how hurtful the words you may say to that person, even though the person might have said something you might think is hurtful, and it might not be that hurtful when you think about it, and it's like, wait a minute, and then you respond with something crazy, and it's like, and that person on the end is like, so that's how you really feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
So just be mindful. I'm not respond however you want to respond, but always, like I tell my kids, live with the consequences, whether good or bad, and you got to understand what your role is in that. If you say something crazy, say something negative, understand that you did play a role. Well, they said this to me, but how could you have handled it different? Again, it goes back to prevention. You have young people or adults or family members who are either using or the cusp using or recovery. How do you handle them? You don't call them stupid and say, you can say this is a stupid thing to do, but it's how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do to help you navigate through this? So is it that you need me to call you every day at 6:30 in the morning? I'll turn my phone on and I'll call you.
Yeah, you hit on a really important point. And, and again, I've been looking at the Talk They Hear You messaging prior to this because they've updated it recently, about a year ago. And it's just about the significant influence that parents have in their children's decisions to experiment with alcohol and other drugs. And they say it's just more important. It's better to talk to them before they're exposed. Like people are often so afraid to talk about it, and not talking about it really sends kids a message. And we need to be aware of the messages that we send. But we also need to know that if you do something that winds up being harmful to somebody, or you create something that you don't want to create through your words, you don't have to stay in that either. It's important to be able to talk about it and be open, and make amends where you can. It doesn't mean that gives us free rein to go and be hurtful and then we just make amends. I mean, to really mean those amends, living amends. I've been in situations where, like I said, sometimes I can be hot-tempered and I can be impatient, and I let the stress get to me, and I can be a little rude. And I'm saying that is an understatement. To a cashier or somebody. I've gone back to the store and said a week later and said, I spoke to you last week. I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have blamed you. I shouldn't have taken out my day on you, and you didn't deserve that. And, again, that doesn't give me permission to keep doing that, but it's allowed me to go and try to repair some of the harm I did. And usually the response has been, thank you. Thank you for saying that to me. I mean, I'm sure there's people who've been like, whatever, but I think I at least have to make sure that I try to undo that harm. And people need to know they're important. And even before that harm can be done, sometimes just saying to somebody in a store, thank you so much. You were a really big help for me today. Or thank you for packing. Or you see a person's name and you say, hey, hi, Cheryl, how are you doing? Mm-hmm. That little bit of recognition goes a long way. Absolutely. I mean, and that's giving a flower.
It is. People want to be, again, we said this earlier, people want to be acknowledged, whether they say it or not. Like, I don't care if you don't tell me. Yes, you do. We all do. We all do. And that's okay. It's not, and that's totally fine for you to feel like you want some sort of acknowledgement. Like, I think we need to get off our high horse and not acknowledge the struggles, right? Because, people don't acknowledge struggles because we don't want to be judged. And I get it. I don't want to be judged either. But I do my best to acknowledge what's going on in my life. I've learned not to run away from things that are going on. And it's hard. It does hurt. But, like, how far are you going to run? And it's your decision. And this is a podcast. This is us having conversation. And it's however you want to, like we said earlier, some people might receive the message, some people might not. It's however you want to receive and adapt that message to your life, And if it's applicable to you, I say do it. And if it isn't, pass it on to someone else, because it might work for someone else. Nothing in life, except for like t-shirts, undershirts, there's one size fits all.
And gloves, I just want gloves that work.
Well, but even with t-shirts, some people like, how you blame cotton, something like 50-50. So it's nothing is one size fits all. You know, it's all about finding what fits for you. But also, again, like Ronnie stated earlier, like we both stated, like giving flowers out, showing gratitude, and that right there helps for prevention. You know, telling people not only that they're great or beautiful, but why? What makes you beautiful? Your beautiful round eyes. My daughter has some beautiful round eyes. They're amazing. You know, and you know, just telling her. But I never with my kids. I never really focused on beauty. I focused on what they done in life, whether it was sports, whether it's academics. I focused on those things because anyone can tell you you're beautiful. You know, what have you? You're pretty. You're handsome. What have you? You know, but I do tell them they're handsome and they're beautiful. I do tell them that. I mean, they're older now, but at that younger age, I want them to know that I noticed that, you know, that they're intelligent. And I think to what Ronnie was saying earlier, what about talk you here is about, you know, having those conversations, whether it's about substances or just having positive conversations, those lead into prevention. You know, those lead into outcomes in your life. You know what, my dad, if I do this, what is my dad going to think of? I'm still, and they don't know I'm still going to love you. They know now. Well, they know. I'm still going to love you. I'm going to be disappointed. Like I tell them they're older now, and I tell them, allow me to be upset. Allow me to, give me grace. Give me an opportunity to process what's going on. Because whatever you told me upset me, and that's okay. I'm going to come back and like, all right, I got over it. I'm not over it. I'm over it. Let's have a discussion about it. Mm-hmm. You know, that's something like, and that's not only with your kids, with your partner, your business partner, your coworker, like whoever it is, like allow each other to be upset, but also have that conversation. Don't let the conversation go away. Don't let the feelings, don't wait 4 months. It's like by that time, you're not gonna really fully remember why you were upset.
4 months, 4 days.
So yeah, it's like
sometimes 4 minutes.
Why am I mad?
But I love that, and you know, and I want to give you some flowers for that. That I love the way you parent, and you're a wonderful dad, and really you are an example. You set the tone for so many parents out there. The things you do with your kids, you treat them with some love and respect, and you're willing to admit when you've made mistakes, and you hear them, and you just prop them up as people, and you know, that's so important. You love them no matter what, and you have such open discussion. And again, you know, you're doing so much, and you're doing the things that we know make a difference. And just you're a great example of a wonderful parent, and I just appreciate that. Well, I appreciate hearing you tell those stories, and I even get a little teary-eyed sometimes because I didn't have a real close relationship with my biological dad. I do with my stepdad. And then my dad and I kind of made our peace later on. But when I see a dad with kids, I just get a little teary-eyed because I can appreciate that so much. But you are an incredible parent, Chevar.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And for the listeners, my kids have told me that also. Like when they told me that, I was surprised. I'm like, I thought you guys don't like me.
You know, there's certain stages of life where I think parents, their kids still like them because they don't like themselves. I mean, you know, I don't know about you, but I know when I was going through, you know, my teenage years, I didn't like me.
No, absolutely.
You know, and it's a hard time. You don't know who you are. And, you know, just there's so many things going on, and the teenage brain isn't developed yet, and we make such awful choices a lot of times. But again, talking with kids and just being able to help them find decision-making processes and just understand where you're at, it really does help. And, you know, I think maybe what we can do too, in the description, we can put the link to Talk They Hear You.
Okay.
If anybody wants to go there, you can download different materials. It's through SAMHSA. It's a great resource. A lot of our coalitions have been using it, and they have it in multiple languages. Just really don't hesitate to take a look. But I think we're getting to that time.
Yeah.
And you know, for us, this is fun because this is what we do. Yeah. We do this not just as a podcast. We talk like this all the time, which is a blessing. But, you know, again, we've got a lot of coalitions. If you live in a neighborhood in New York City, reach out to us. We've got a coalition pretty much every neighborhood now, and, you know, or just nearby. And we'd love for you to get involved in those coalitions. If you want to start one, please reach out to us. We're here to help. But I'm just really grateful that we get to be a family and a team. We're not just a team. We're beyond a team. We've got a team family, I feel. There's a lot of love there.
I agree. I agree. I'm gonna look up a word that encapsulates both team and family. See if there's a word out there that will make that word up.
Yeah, what could we be? We're a theme. No, that's we're a family.
We'll figure that out. But for those of you who are listening, is it the time, Ronnie? Is it the time?
I think it is time.
I love doing this.
Me too.
Yeah, we got to do this more often. This is done. Before we go, this, and this is therapeutic for me. So flowers to you, Ronnie, for allowing me to express myself, to share my thoughts and share my gratitude, to not stifle me and say, you don't talk. No, you allow whatever I say, and I appreciate that because it's therapeutic for me. I have a lot on my mind. I have a lot that I'm going through. And I'm sort of saying with you, but having these conversations, being able to tell stories, and I know we got to go, but I had to say that like this for me is therapeutic, and that's why when we do our social media, I always push for video testimonials because hearing a person's story is so important. It makes it real.
It really is. Yeah.
It humanizes whatever they're talking about, whatever the topic is. It humanizes. It's like, oh, okay, that's a voice, that's a face, that's a story. So
and lets you realize you're not alone.
Absolutely. So I wanted to say that. Ronnie, I know I should have found. Do you have any final words?
I appreciate that, Chevar. I really do, and I appreciate you. But no, I'm just more next time.
So everyone, this is the solution. Nothing changes if we change nothing.
Have a good one.